Hello and welcome once again to Inside Ball, the podcast where we cover everything rugby league. Kevin Walters, how are you, mate?
Great, thanks, Dobbo. More importantly, how are you, mate? You survived Vegas okay?
Well, I'm here. I mean, the soul's broken, the mind's a little broken, but we got through it. It's an interesting scenario. The second edition of Vegas, a roaring success. Crowds up 10%, the coverage across America, but there's still some teething problems with it. I genuinely believe.
What are they?
Well, I think everybody knows the 4 games was too much.
Yeah.
Too much. Can you believe this though? And this is the interesting part. They sold more grog at Allegiant Stadium in the first hour than they sold on any NFL game throughout all the season. So in the first hour at Allegiant Stadium, and look, there's a couple of theories behind that. One, the Poms were first up, and they were charged. They got there. They were on like day 5 of a bender, and they were right into it. And we saw the footage. But also, a lot of people get full of gas out in the car parks and then come into the game and then they don't drink as much. But they ran out of food, they ran out of grog. It was complete and utter. They never expected. And I was speaking to a bloke behind the counter. He said, "Mate, you Aussies, you drink." I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's one thing that does happen." Look, there was a lot of good things out of it. I thought the English Super League game. Yeah. To me, I don't know how it looked on TV.
It was good on TV, except it blew out a bit, didn't it? It got to 42-0 to Wigan, which sort of, a lot of TV screens would have been turned off. Even at half-time, it was double-digit figures to 0,
So then you get to the Canberra game. That was a quality game.
Good game.
I called the Canberra game for Triple M, and I also called the women's the women's international. Now, I've got to be honest with you. The women's international game, for me, as a significant moment to call, was one of the greatest calling experiences ever because I've never got to call an Australian or a rep game as a broadcaster. So the honour to call that game and call a national side. But there's heaps it takes out of it. Now, people can say it was a blowout, it was disgusting. I look at it and go, okay, there's 2 things. The NRL have done a great job in growing the game here in Australia.
Of women's
NRLW.
Yeah.
And the proof was in the pudding on what we saw on Saturday afternoon in Vegas. Now, there's no money in the Super League. There's no money. New Zealand Rugby League.
Is the Super League in England for the women's, are they professional?
No, they're semi-professional as well.
Right.
So the theory behind it is either the NRL buy the English Super League, they can grow the game and do what they've done here. It's going to take a while, but they'll build it. Or you play a state of origin, or you play Australia versus the rest of the world. If you want to have a test match there, you can't go with that because that sucked the life out of the stadium. Everybody was up after Canberra. Everybody was up when the national anthem. By halftime, it's 42-0, and we're looking at each other going, this could literally, and remember it's a 35-minute halves, could be 100.
Yeah, well,
now, it nearly got to 100. And the biggest cheer came when the English finally scored a try.
Yeah.
So then we get the heavyweights of, Penrith and Cronulla. But that game was lost. The crowd, I know they had 45,000 over the whole day, but for me, there would have been 20,000 left in the stadium. It didn't have the billing that it should have. So I think Peter Volandi's coming out on the Monday and saying, look, 4 games is too much. I think that's right, but I don't know how you do it. Now,
well, I'll give my 2's on the money, mate. Two games is enough for people to give them the excuse to fly, to Vegas. Yeah. 1 game, no. 2's the money, mate.
Okay.
Even put one NRL game and 1 Super League game. You still get the English involved because they created the atmosphere at the start. I could hear it coming through the screen.
It was crazy. I
could hear it coming through.
James Graham, who played for St Helens, Wigan hate James Graham. So we were doing the broadcast. So we went down to right where they are. And James Graham started doing the 4 because they won 4 premierships in a row. Yeah. He started doing that to him. Well, the language that came from this crowd, them chanting at him, you are this, you are that, and they've all got every song and ditty across the world. And full well what that English Super League's competition's like.
Yeah.
I think it brought another 10 to 12,000 English to the game, but I don't think the matchups were right, mate. I think, they're talking next year, right? And so they're talking Dragons, Para, Bulldogs, and the Cowboys. That's the four teams
Well,
that
that's all
everybody's talking about.
fresh meat for everyone to travel.
The Bulldogs fans could pack that stadium out. They travel. The St George fans could pack that out.
They're a world club.
Yeah,
Dragons.
you know, like so you know what I'm saying. And the Cowboys, well, they've got the lucky affiliation that they can leverage their brand off the biggest brand in America, which is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
They changed it. So I think if the NRL look at the matchups, but I like what Nathan Cleary said. Why don't you hold 3 games? One of them's the World Club Challenge. So whichever team wins the premiership here and the Super League premiership, so Wigan and Penrith, they play that. Then you play 2 NRL games. That's it. If you 3 games to me, 3 quality NRL games. The only other issue is, and we'll get to where I ended up because I ended up in somewhere that you won't ever believe. The only other thing is you don't get a pass out once you go for the day. Yeah, that's the biggest problem. So if you go there, you want to watch Wigan and Warrington play, which was great to see. You don't want to hang around for Canberra because you're a Penrith supporter. You want to go out. You can't get back in, and that is the biggest issue with it.
So why is that the rule? You can in Australia,
you pass out.
I know.
And do you know what? In LA, you can do it. I've been to SoFi Stadium in the NFL. You can get a pass out. I know a couple of mates go outside and have a cigarette, go back in, but you cannot do it at all there. And that, to me, is the one area.
Yeah.
Over 2 days, doesn't work. Doesn't work. The stadium hire is too dear. The big issue for me then is it is a trap. I had a very good time. So highlights for me, what would your highlight when you were there? I know you know, like...
Well, the game, mate. The game was the stadium.
Yeah.
Just being to Vegas as well. I mean, I didn't go out too much, but...
You're a bit of a hermit. You were very grumpy over there last year. You were very grumpy prior to it. You know, like un-Kevin-like, I would say.
Well, the club at the time had a few issues off-field that you reported every day on Channel 9.
Yes, on the newsbreaker.
So we're there on tenterhooks as it was. And Vegas with all its traps, you know, it's not...
I found the traps. Things
can go wrong in Vegas, definitely. And I noticed after the game, both the coaches that won, like Ricky's press conference and Ivan Cleary's press conference, totally different. Yeah. Totally different to the 2 losing coaches. And after that game last year, I felt like shit.
I know. How bad?
Really bad. To a fact that when I got back I just went back up to my room after the game and I didn't leave my room. I rang Narelle and I said, is there any flights, my wife, back to Australia tonight? Because I just felt like I was just so flat. Because we put a lot of work and a lot of energy into that one single game and the hype and the stadium and being in Vegas and in LA. It was just draining, really draining. And I can understand Ricky's emotions. That's how I would.
I had a beer with Rick. That.
Yeah, well, if he had lost,
he said to me exactly that. Because I said to him, "How would you been?" He said, "I would not have spoken to anybody at all if we'd lost today."
Yeah,
and he was serious about that. And Kaylee was out. I had a beer with them at Resorts World that night. They were happy and celebrating, and they did a really good job. If I'm a Warriors fan,
you're disappointed.
I'm worried, mate. If I'm a Warriors fan, I'm worried, Kev.
No, well, they got options there. And that half, you're talking about the halves, obviously.
I'm talking about what's going on off the field. Well, I mean that. Mate, I don't care whatever you say. Richard Agar grabbing a journo by the throat at halftime when you're walking to... I'm serious here. You're walking... Like, you think about this. You've got your assistants. You're down at halftime. You're walking to the change rooms, and one of your assistants... who's had a blue with a journo 2 years earlier, and then he decides, okay, hang on, this is the moment we're going to deal with it, and he grabs him by the throat. Come on.
Yeah, that's...
Like, I'm sorry.
That's not acceptable.
At all. And the journalist might not be right, but he might have been completely deserving. But, like, you are supposed to be focusing on the game. So you've got that issue. Then you've got, right, and this is the problem with Resorts World, right? We've got coaches out on the grog midweek, and everybody to see, like having a drink. Now, I don't know what you think, but I just... The problem is with this...
It's not a good look.
Look, I never saw you, and I never saw you having a beer that whole time. I never saw Rick having a beer the whole time. Yeah. I never saw Ivan Cleary. Penrith never went anywhere. They were absolutely bunkered down. But Andrew Webster, mate, every night I saw him having a beer. Now... Did it affect their coaching? No. And is it normal for coaches? I don't know this one, but is it normal for coaches to go out and have a drink before games with your staff? I don't know.
Well,
this.
10 years ago, yes. Now, no. For me, it's a no-go zone.
So what night before? Can you just give us some insight? Like you never, like you just try and because Wayne never drank, so like you can't use.
No, but Wayne wouldn't be out anywhere either.
Yeah.
Wayne didn't drink, but he didn't go out. Like if Wayne in Vegas, Wayne wouldn't go down. Or maybe he would. I don't know. Maybe he would, but
even Sam Burgess, who had some visa issues, he got there. He went to the bar to have some dinner. He ran into James Graham 10 o'clock. He said, "I've got to go." He literally.
Well,
and
that's the traps of Vegas. Where you see people that you don't
he hadn't seen
normally see,
yeah.
and you want to catch up with them, but I've got a game to play or I've got a game to coach. You know, the players obviously don't indulge in that, but some of the coaches would, and certainly. But it's not a good look.
But I look at the Warriors. Okay, so you've got the coach. You're having a few beers, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I don't say it affects that. But then there were some players. They're around the gaming tables at night. I mean, they could do that, but they could do that when they were like if they were at home, they could go to a casino at night.
But the trouble with gambling, Dobbo, it gets into you. And I'm not a gambler, so I'm very fortunate, right? But it gets in your mindset. If you win and you're gambling, you've got a massive high.
Yep.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
If you lose, it annoys you. It affects your brain and your positivity, which has got to affect performance.
Okay.
So any players that were gambling, that's not the right.
And I don't know, and I'm not saying anything, but I just saw that performance from the Warriors as a collective. I look at okay, your coaching staff's having a beer, that's fine, whatever, but then your assistant coach is then grabbing a journo, and then you're seeing your players, and then you see that performance, and you go, well, hang on,
well,
these guys have got some. There is some, and look, I spoke to a player there who was proper annoyed by the whole week, and he's from the Warriors, proper annoyed by it. And you know what? So I'm starting to say to myself, and I'm not death riding the Warriors.
Hang on. I'm going to let you go any further. Ricky's boys got into a stink in the lift.
Okay.
But
you know what they did? Hudson Young and Morgan Smithies, they had the punch up in the lift. We talked about this last week, but straight away they got on the front foot, and they were like, okay. Yep, we've made a mistake. We've done it. You know, like this is it. So I sort of might think, well, maybe Ricky used that to galvanise them. Like, and of course, you've been in footy clubs and had punch-ups with teammates, surely.
We'll have.
That's a very normal thing.
It's very normal.
Okay. Go on.
Oh, yeah, well, don't fight Peter Ryan because he's pretty... Don't take Peter Ryan. So I used to call our forwards, if we lost the game, I'd tease them and call them soft, and weak.
What do you call them? That just soft and weak.
Pop gun pack. I used to call them, Alf and I used to tease them all the time. If we lost or we went, and this one particular time was the wrong time to call it because we were at the Paddington Tavern.
Yeah.
Might have been after a game, and Chris Johns was there because he had a broken arm, and we're out the back at the paddo, and I started calling him Pop gun, and Johnsy did, and Peter didn't like it. He
can fight like a bag of feral cats.
Well,
it's very well known.
I found out about that. So because Johnsy had the broken arm, they couldn't get in and fist fight, so they kidney punched. And they'd have 2 or 3 at each other, and then Chris hit Rhino pretty hard, and he turned around, just went and had a swing at him.
Yeah.
And missed him. Johnsy got out of the way, and I raced in. I said, come on, that's enough. And he hit me, and I went straight to the... He dropped me,
Peter Ryan drops Kevin Walters. How does this never make the media?
Well, it did because we left in taxis, Johnsy and I and Rhino. But the good part of the story is, to bring it all to light, at the end of the year, we had a charity fight. So Johnsy and I fought Peter Ryan in a ring, right? And Johnsy and I were having a couple of beers before it, and we could hear this... I thought, what's that? We went in the change room next door. It was Peter Ryan. He was on the pads warming up. And he looked at us. He was going to...
What'd you say to him?
I said, mate, what are you doing? He said, I'm warming up to smash you blokes. I thought, oh, here we go, Johnsy. So Johnsy's come up with this plan, this boxing plan. Why don't we send you in first, Kevy? You just wear him out, absorb as much as you can. And I've got a big bomb here. I'm ready. The arm's good to go. I'll hit him with the bomb, but you've got to tire him out. So I said, right, great plan. I love it, Johnsy. I got in there thinking, I can move around and whatever. But I'm not a fighter. Yeah. Rhino was just slugging me every second. And I look at Johnsy trying to tap him. Come on. He kept standing back, wouldn't go in. Anyway, I ended up getting in, and ended up good. We raised some money for charity, and it all ended well. But fights do happen in teams
Very common.
all the time.
Yeah, very common.
But don't take on Peter Ryan.
Never, ever. I never knew that story. I can't believe you just walked in there trying to break it up and cop one and dropped it.
Well, I might have been doing a bit more than just trying to break it up. Yeah.
You would never call them a pop gun pack anyway, ever again.
No.
Inside Ball at dot podcast. You can go on Instagram, and also we're on TikTok now. You can spot it while we're on everywhere.
TikTok.
Yeah, we're on TikTok.
I'm on TikTok. Yeah, I'm on TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok yet, but I think we need to. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We'll get to our questions very shortly as well. Okay.
So you happy with Vegas?
I'm happy with Vegas. I think, look, you're right. I think it comes back to 3 games. I think it's a trap. I think you've got to really try and work out whether or not your side is right for when they come back. I think that's the biggest issue to come back. And it'll be interesting to see how all those 4 teams react in round 2, 3 and 4.
Well, they got all the science and background for sport and their preparation, so I can't see it being a problem. And they've all got a week off too. They get back into their training. Ricky, I noticed in his press conference after the game, he said his big focus is now on bringing the Raiders down from the big high.
Well, they got the Bronx.
Yeah, that's easy to prepare for when you're playing the Broncos.
He's got a couple of suspensions though. Tarpanay with the shoulder charge, he's in a bit of trouble, and Savage, they'll lose Savage. Hopper comes in there. But can we just quickly talk about a Queenslander? How good was the Red Terror? How good was Corey Horsburgh? I mean, look,
he was nearly gone.
Well, he played in the New South Wales Cup. He punched without even question. He should have done 10 weeks for the fight that he caused.
Yeah.
You remember last year, like he just punched on suspicion and belted a bloke.
Yeah.
And I know Ricky was having all sorts of dramas with him. But I was talking to his old man. His old man's a great bloke. Corey Hawes was old man.
I played against his old man.
So he just said to me, mate, he's worked so bloody hard in the off season.
Yeah.
And that showed. He played the first 40 minutes. He is a hard nut. You know what he's got about him? He's got origin about him to the T. I love him. I think, and Ricky now loves him.
He plays with passion, mate. You've never been a bad redhead, really. Come on. I mean, good people.
All my family are redheads, and I could say that different stages, they have moments.
I've got a brother, and he's as wild as
Drewy.
But
tough. Like he's tough. Is he the
loyal.
toughest? Is he the toughest out of the whole?
Oh yeah,
stand?
hands down.
Drew is.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's a good man, Drew. Hey, listen.
Penrith, how good were they? I love what I thought that Cronulla were a fair chance of beating them.
Cronulla were very happy with their performance. Right?
No.
I'm telling you, they were really. Well, I spoke to Josh Hannah and he goes, mate, we lost that game. We had them on the rack. They were right. And he said, we got a lot to learn from it, but we scored 22 points on Penrith. And I go, you know what? And from the outside looking in, Kev, I was like, okay.
That's probably their thoughts post-game. Once they go back and have a look at the vision and sit down and do it properly, there's a few areas there where they came up short, And Penrith, they only played for 60 minutes or so. That first 15 minutes was, I thought I was watching another team, But to be fair, they had 3. Well, they didn't play a trial. It was all park footy stuff to get them ready for it.
Well, Dylan Edwards didn't. He did no pre-season.
Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, Cleary comes back. But mate, what about they take James Fisher-Harris out? Did you miss him? No, because Lindsay Smith.
Was brilliant.
He's just unbelievable. Like. Yeah. I thought they were no chance when you took Luai, you took Taruva, you took James Fisher-Harris out of that side. I thought, you know what? They're done.
Yeah.
They are there. They are going to be better. If they are first or second by the end of the season, they get that week off.
Yeah.
Mate, look out.
I asked one of our recruiters at the Broncos, I said, that Lindsay Smith, he just keeps what's his background? And he said, well, through the underage and schoolboys and that, he was the only one that would stand up to Payne Haas.
Is that right?
At state carnivals and underage stuff. He would try and take on Payne. You know? He said all the other kids
were scared of him,
scared or just weren't good enough, and he just stood out as one of the kids that would actually. I'm not saying he put it over Payne, but he actually stood up and had a crack back at him. Which to me sounds like he's got really strong confidence and belief in himself. And a good aggressive side to him as well. He's an impressive player.
Vegas was a success. Fremont Street, all that. I even got to go to a hip nightclub. I'm very hip. No, I went and saw T-Pain. Mate, that's all. Mate, if Buzz Rothfield can go and watch T-Pain, so can Ben Dobbin.
Dobbo.
And I mean, he's a rapper. He was hip. It was
I've
very
never
good.
heard of him.
Well,
So.
I hadn't either, but after now, I'm a huge T-Pain fan, and
Righto. Get your
very
tickets
good.
when he's in Australia.
Yeah, mate, T-Pain's he's hip. That's what I say.
Righto,
Now,
you survived Vegas,
We
which is
survived
good.
Vegas. Let's move on. Cyclone Alfred. We've obviously got a cyclone pending here in Queensland.
Yes.
Now, the NRL made the decision yesterday to move the Dolphins game to CommBank Stadium.
The AFL have moved their games as well.
Once
Suns-
the AFL, Suns game on Saturday and obviously Thursday night, once they did that, it was inevitable that, it was going to happen. We will preview that in a minute, but the bottom line, let's have a look. Brisbane take on the Roosters tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Billy starting at 14. Not shocked.
No, not shocked.
Patesy will start at 9. The edges are where Gajeski, Piakura on the bench, and Ricky.
Well,
Coach, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I actually don't mind the look of the Broncos squad. Now, to be fair to Maguire, he did say at the start of pre-season, he got all the hookers in and said, right, I haven't made a decision on who's playing. You're all in the picture. Train well, do the right thing, and we'll make a decision, for round one. Obviously, Corey Pakes has impressed him at training, so he's got the job for round one. There's been some other players that have been really impressive at training too. So they've got the jump. Go Jetski back row. He's an older style of player. So that's what I believe Maguire likes. And Brendan Piakura, his best football is still in front of him. So him coming off the bench, I don't.
Yeah, but how do you use that? Can you tell me how you?
Well, he can play middle edge. Go Jetski can play middle and edge. It's not a bad balance.
You wouldn't play Piakura in the middle, would you?
No, if he goes on.
If he goes the edge, you play Gajeski in the middle.
Gajeski there. So, and the hookers have been battling it out since.
Well, what does Billy reckon? Will Billy play minutes, do you think?
The 1-2 hooker, I believe. Well, I don't know.
So play the middle 40, you would think you would get 32 or 3 minutes in the middle there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere around that space. So,
he does provide a little bit of utility though, because
he can play 6.
He can play 6 and
Pakesy played. That was his position as a junior coming through 6 and 7. So I'm not sure. It's a very strong lineup from the Broncos. No Katoni Staggs with his quad injury. That's a bigger loss than a lot of people can see. Dean Mariner coming in, just exciting young player, but Katoni just brings that hardness and that level of defence, on the edge. So that might be an area where the Roosters can attack. But the Broncos, they've got most of the bases covered, really. When you look at, and I just put myself back as a player, which I always did as a coach. Now, how are they feeling, the players? After last year and what's been said about them, they would be gristling for a game, a proper game. Now, they've been impressive in the trials, but trial form is no form. They'll be bristling, and they'll want to show everyone, from Reece Walsh at fullback right through to Payne Haas and Paddy Carrigan up front, that they are a force and a team to be respected. Because at the moment, they're not getting a lot of respect. There's been a lot of stories, about the...
Buzz Rothfield said yesterday he doesn't think they're going to make the 8. Absolutely said that. He absolutely says they're not going to make the 8.
Buzz was still at the DJ place. Where'd you go to? Who did you see? Did he say it at the nightclub?
Yeah, T-Pain.
Yeah, that's probably where he said his statement. But the Broncos are going to make the 8. Come on,
I
look
agree
at
with
their
that.
roster.
Okay, but you tell
Look
me
at
this.
their roster.
Okay, well, I agree with you. Right. But what Buzz says is valid. That roster is not a lot different from last year. In fact, I think it's weaker. Tomorrow's team is weaker than what it was because,
Yeah, because they're injured, mate.
Yeah.
But that's if you got your full list, we had... I'm not talking about last year.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this year, what makes the difference? What makes the difference between a side this week to the team last year? You tell me. So what Buzz is saying...
Well, in the last 2 rounds, there was no Katoni Staggs, there was no Reece Walsh, there was no Ezra Mem, there was no Payne Haas.
Yeah. So you bring those players back in.
You bring them back in, mate. It's a whole different team.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And they're all available. The only one's not Katoni, and Broncos have got good depth.
Well, Shibasaki and Mariner scare me in the centres defensively. I'm just going to be honest with you. And they're young players, and they're going to be Gemmett's not, but they're going to be. But that to me scares me.
So there's 3 things that why they'll win. The first one was the players and their reaction to what happened last year. You'd expect that would be really high. Second thing is they're nearly full strength, except for Katoni. Everybody else is available, right? And Dean Mariner coming in for Staggs, that's not a bad.
Yeah,
that's not a bad
fair replacement.
Swap,
yeah,
right. And the third thing, the Roosters are decimated, mate. From all the players leaving last year,
Yeah.
1,200 games or something of NRL experience.
What do you got? You got no Jared, no Joey Manu, Suoli'i, Sam Walker's injured, Brandon Smith's
Keary.
injured, Kiri's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of players there.
And that alone, and the Roosters have had their problems through the trials.
Yeah.
So they're severely weakened, the Roosters. Not only what happened with the moving on of players, but their two best players, Sam Walker and Brandon Smith, they're not available.
They're injured. Yeah, they never factored that in. You like Brisbane in this one?
Yeah, I think so.
You think they'll do it
really
easy?
Strong. Oh, not easy, but they'll win comfortably.
Right. Okay. Well, Dolphins take on Rabbitohs now. Talk to me about that. I mean, Wayne,
where's this game being played at again?
It's playing at Combank.
Right, Combank.
But you just feel Uncle Wayne.
Oh, he's got a little bit in the
It just is like Wayne will somehow get into his mind, in my opinion, that he has to prove to everybody that he should be still the Dolphins coach, and he'll just get them up.
Well, they got a couple of big ins, haven't they? In that with Cody Walker and
Campbell Graham.
Coming in. So that's two big ins for them. Campbell Graham hasn't played for a long time, so and I believe he's a world class centre. I mean, I don't know how effective he's going to be in his first game, coming back from those injuries, but he's a good in for them. Cody Walker's a great in as well. I think he's hasn't played either this year, so it just depends on those two. Their middles and that are they good back row. Jai Arrow, he's
they've got to tell us something. I think they're light on in the forwards, Kev.
A little bit light.
They've got no big boppers. There's no. I mean, I understand. Davey Miley. There's but look, come on.
Yeah,
they lose Cook. They haven't got Latrell. I mean, to me, they just look a little.
Well,
Cam Murray out for the season.
Wayne's got his work cut out there.
Yeah,
from when he first signed.
Yeah, to what he's got now.
The picture has moved so much for him.
Yeah.
In over the pre-season.
Yeah.
Your two best players, and they're both they're Australian players. They're world class players.
Yeah, sure.
And they affect the outcome of games. Aren't playing, so that's straight away. It's like taking, Reece Walsh and Pat Carrigan out of your team.
Yeah.
Two big outs.
Yeah, I agree.
So
you're going to back the Dolphins?
I'm going to go the Dolphins. I think they can win, and I believe they can. I think they're a more settled side. I know they've had their problems through the pre-season as well, but if Herbie Farnworth decides to hit the pedal, it's Dolphins all the way, mate.
Yeah, I just wonder how the shift, and I mean that like having to pack up and shift everything, and just how much worry that cyclone will hit on Thursday night.
I've been through a few cyclones without Cyclone Alfies. I've seen them. They are devastating.
What's a Cyclone Alfie like? What is Cyclone?
You know what a Cyclone Alfie is like.
I saw it in Vegas.
Yeah. There's no one in Brisbane who does. Well, I shouldn't be.
No, I know you're not joking about that, but lighthearted. Like Cyclone Alfie is a different cyclone to what we're expecting on Saturday. But Friday morning, that game's on Friday night. There's got to be players that will be worried if we lose power. Like
they all would be, mate.
Yeah, and so they're going to be down there. So does that play an effect? And I'm not trying to.
Well, to be fair, the cyclone will have come through. Well, is it 1 a.m. Friday
morning? So there'll be
there'll be devastation in Brisbane. It's from all reports from the government are telling us it's going to create a lot of havoc here in Brisbane. So and flood damage. So depending on that. With the players being in Sydney, I'm sure there'll be a lot of communication between them, and it might galvanise them too, Dobbo, and
it might
bring them together, for a strong performance. But then I'm going to Sydney on the weekend as well for Fox. I don't know when I'm going to get home, and my family.
You might get back you might be on the bus with the Broncos or the Dolphins on the way back. Wouldn't that be a turn?
Well, I could drive home.
Why would you? When there's a bus going back, you just jump on the bus, would you?
I'm not sure I will then.
I'd like to see it anyway. Cowboys take on Manly. This is at 4 points. That would make a story. Please do that just for this show.
I'd love that.
I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Cowboys take on Manly. Jason Tomalolo not even in the side.
No, well, he's still recovering from.
He's been named 21 man. So does that mean that where they might drop off in the next couple of days? They might get him.
No, well, if he's in.
He's in the 21 man squad.
He's in the 21, yeah, I get that. So he's every chance of playing, mate.
Yeah, if they've got him in the 21, he's going to...
probably just seeing how he progresses through the week. It's a Sunday game.
Yeah, so they've got till Friday to make that decision. 2 days out, they can drop him off.
Yeah, they won't drop him off. If he's in the 21...
He's playing.
Yeah,
well, he's there. It's a new side, and regardless of what anybody says, they have to deliver. For Todd Payton's job, they have to deliver
Well,
this year.
that's a tough away game to start the year.
Yeah, Manly look very, very good. Way better than people are giving them credit
Well,
for.
when you got the two Travojeviches in there, the DCE, their forwards are really strong, big.
Hamole, Paseka, they've got some, they got Jazz Tavanga.
Yeah.
Like he played number 9.
Their forwards can hold teams enough. They haven't got the best pack in the competition, but their forwards can hold the opposition enough so that those key players in that spine can just, when DCE and Travojevic get going, they're very hard to stop defensively.
Yeah, I don't like the Cowboys' chances in Manly. I think the Cowboys are going to be like. I know you want to.
It depends on the start and how they defend, because that's the big area for the Cowboys. We know they can attack. Drinkwater at the back, there's points in them, but can they stop the points that Manly are going to create? So defensively, if they can get their act together, and they seem to have it in the trials against the Storm 2 weeks ago. I mean, it was only a trial game, but they looked connected in defence, the best I've seen them. So, and they'll have to be against Manly. And Manly are a really good, much better team at that stadium. Was it 4
Pines?
4 Pines.
Yeah.
I don't think they lost a game there last year.
They're very strong there.
Yeah,
I'm happy for Siebes. I mean,
well, he's got some good players there, and he's got them playing well.
And I mean, you understand what this feeling's like. He won a wooden spoon at Brisbane. He coached Brisbane to a wooden spoon. No, but he got sacked off the back of it, right? And he could have gone into the wilderness.
Yeah, he could have.
And he got back, and I'm happy for him, regardless of that. He's done that, and it just shows that you guys are all you'll coach again in a first grade side. That's and he's taken obviously some lessons. I mean, from what happened at Brisbane, and he's
learning all the time as a coach.
Yeah,
and every coach in the NRL, whether you're Wayne Bennett, Craig Bellamy, they're still learning.
Yeah,
and Wayne's been coaching for 50 years. Still learning.
He's never won a wooden spoon. Could this be the year?
He has won a wooden spoon.
Has he?
At Brothers in Brisbane.
Really?
Yeah. Back in 1948 or something it was. No, I'm serious.
I know. I just don't know if it was 1948. But anyway, it might have been a little closer to the 70s, mate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Either way, a lot of people saying South could win a wooden spoon.
No, I can't see that. Well, they'll get Latrell back in 6 weeks. Murray will come back at some stage throughout the season. They just got to scrap hard, and they'll be thereabouts. If they can win enough games early,
they'll be okay.
Let's see where they are at Origin time. That's normally a good indicator of where teams are going to.
Titans have the bye, so they're not playing. You're going to tip Manly or the Cowboys?
Because I'm a Queenslander, I'm going to go to the Cowboys.
Oh, seriously.
You go for Manly.
Use your head, not your heart.
You've got your
Use your
head,
today. Not your heart. Manly will win that one. Dolphins, Rabbitohs.
I'm going Dolphins. I'm going all the Queensland teams. I'm taking a leaf out of Gal's book. Gal thinks the 4 Queensland teams can make the 8.
Gal, I'm not going to say anything.
Don't say anything because he's good in the ring too.
He was very good. Yeah, he can go. All right, this is Inside Ball. Go to Inside Ball Podcast on Instagram or search us Inside Ball anywhere on all forms of social media, Apple and Spotify. Kevin Walters and Dobbo with you. We have got Ask Kevy. Now, this was a roaring success last week, the Ask Kevy. Righto, Kevy. Let's have a look from James Bulgarelli. Bulgarelli.
Yep.
Thoughts on Tom Duffy getting the Cows number 7 jersey?
Love it.
You
Love
do?
it. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of him play as a junior player. Yep. I think he's got all the skills, and he showed. I watched him in the trial against the Storm. Very confident young kid and goal kicker, which again tells me he's got a good discipline with his mind. When the pressure's on, he can handle the decisions that have to be made. You see the great halves. Joey Johns comes to mind. His goal kicking. Nathan Cleary. When you know that they want that ball in their hands in the moments that are really precious in the game and important, that's the style of halves that they're great players. And this he's only a kid, so he's played a lot of cup last year in Queensland Cup, but he's in for a big season. Really big season. Love him.
Righto. Lucas Pantic. Kevy, would you coach Queensland again in the future if it came available?
Definitely would. I love my time coaching the Maroons. Some of my best memories from coaching with the Maroons. I'm going to give you... There was 2 times that really lifted me above everything else. Just your feelings. First one was Jonathan Thurston.
Yep.
Game 2. So we lost game 1. I left Billy Slater out of the, or I didn't, the selectors did, out of the team. This is 2017 or
Go on.
right. So none of those boys played in game 1. Game 2, Thurston from the sideline kicks a goal. His shoulder was busted.
Shot.
Never played Origin again.
Yep.
Never played again. At half time, the doctor said to me, I don't think his shoulder's pretty banged up there. And John said, he was a three-way conversation, always is. John said, there's no way I'm coming off. I'm staying on. Because I think he knew
But once it was over,
this could have been his last game for Queensland. Because he knew he had to get surgery and the like. So he said, no way known, Kevy, I'm going back out. And if you don't let me go back out, there's going to be trouble. So
he won. He won it.
He kicked the goal from the sideline.
Yeah, and won that game.
To put us into game 3.
Yep, and you won game 3. You went on
We won game 3. The New South Wales media, had a crack at Cameron Smith, saying he's too old. It's his last game for Queensland. Oh, I slid the newspaper under Cameron's door, making sure that he read it.
Did you really?
I did. Every clip I picked and I put it under his door every day. And just because it ended up being his last game for Queensland.
Yeah, I remember.
And he was the best player on the field.
That was at Suncorp, the last game.
It was.
Yeah.
And he was amazing, mate. Him, Cooper and Thurston were the 3 best players for Queensland. And I just remember after that game thinking, wow, these guys, are we ever going to see him again? And I was fortunate enough to be their coach at the time, and all 3 of them weren't there for next year. But that was a great moment for everyone. All Queenslanders loved that moment, but also reminded me, like Cameron Smith, your best work is always in front of you, not behind. Like Cameron Smith had played 42 Origins, 41, and I believe, and I've watched every one of them, that was his best Origin performance at whatever age, 35, whatever he was. So it was a good reminder to me and to everyone who loves rugby league that your best work is always in front of you. When it's not, it's time to go, time to leave the arena.
Can I ask you what it was like? And I'm probably never even, and I'm going to ask you a question here. To coach Slater, Thurston, Cronk and Smith in the same side.
And you left Inglis out of there too.
Yeah, with Inglis in there. Like we're talking about like absolute superstars of the game. Like to manage those guys, they're all really alphas in their own right, but also very humble as well. Like
very humble.
What it was like to coach those guys.
Oh, it was a dream, wasn't it? Really, and Mel would agree with that as well. Mel had them for a lot longer than I did, and I got them probably at their best when they were thinking about retiring, so giving everything. And it was just a pleasure, and the expectation then becomes really high when you can't get it right. And fortunately, we got it right. We got it right. So
sure,
but that was great fun coaching them.
Yeah, they did well.
They did well.
Another question from Dolphin 4020. We appreciate all the work that you do, Dolphin 4020. What do you think of the Dolphins being the only Queensland club with a Queensland coach? This is true. Christian Wolf's from Mount Isa. Des Hasler's not from here. Michael Maguire's not from here. Yeah. And Todd Payton's not from here. So out of the 4 Queensland teams, there's only one Queensland. Does it matter that they're not a Queensland coach?
Yeah, so it's a tough one because I'm a really proud Queenslander. I love all the Queensland clubs. So from a passionate point of view, I'd love to see 4 Queensland coaches
coaching the NRL sides.
Yeah. But I understand that each club, the culture of clubs are different. The Broncos culture is different to the Dolphins. Redcliffe is different to the Titans, is different to the Cowboys. Now, the coach coming in needs to suit that culture, and but I understand it. I get it because the Broncos were originally established for Queensland kids to, rather than head to Sydney, to stay in Queensland and play for Queensland. A Queensland-based team.
And that's the long-term plan.
That's changed now. It's National Rugby League, so I get it. But, from a passionate point of view, as a Queenslander, I'd love to see all 4 teams be coached by a Queenslander.
Only one at the moment with Wolfie, Mount Isa bred, and Christian Wolf.
It's not the end of the world, Dobbo.
Yeah,
there's some nice people that live in New South Wales.
Yeah, there certainly are. A lot of nice people who live in New South Wales. Okay, righto. Winning your first game of the season. I mean, the Melbourne Storm take on Parramatta, and poor old Jason Riles, coaching his first NRL game, comes up against the club that he's been an assistant at. Yeah. Melbourne are stacked. The Pap's back. Munster, they are ready to roll. How important as a coach to win that first round, and how can it affect your season, or is it the old cliche, 1 week at a time, just another game?
Well, it is really important. As to how important, I did some research on this, Dobbo, because I knew this question was coming up. So the 6 premierships that the Broncos have won, they won their first game of the season.
Right.
There was a draw there, I think, in 2000. There was a draw, but they haven't been beaten round one. Which is significant, or maybe not. But if I can take my mind back to 23 at the Broncos, we went to Penrith round one and we won by a field goal, 13-12. That I could tell in the change room after the game, that was a huge boost for the club.
Change the mindset. We can beat the best teams in the competition. So from that perspective, again, depending on who you're playing. So I reckon the Raiders will get enormous satisfaction out of their win over in Vegas. And this weekend, if you get a win, it just sets your season off to a nice start. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's a nice moment to win that first game, to get the confidence to then to march forward. Right. Can I ask you this? And this is the thing that I'm interested in. In 15, you're an assistant under Wayne. You had South Sydney put you through the cleaners in week 1.
Yeah.
Absolutely flog you at Suncorp Stadium. And you walked into the sheds and Wayne was moping around. I still remember this. We were working together and you said, listen, that's what we used to do to teams.
I did say that.
Yeah. You said, we used to be what South Sydney was. You then went on a run that was, and look, you didn't win the comp. We all know what happened. Made the grand final. We all know what happened. It went to Golden Point. That never happens ever again in the NRL. They scrapped Golden Point in grand finals after that. But what do you do if you lose that week 1? Because you managed to turn it round after 1 week and go on and change the psyche. Well, so, you talk about Canberra and all that. I've seen you on the other side turn it round.
Yeah. Well, I can remember that game in 2015. I was pretty embarrassed, as everyone was. But I believe that the club as a whole were too cocky going into that game. Underestimated how good Souths actually were. They were full of superstars. And they were the premiers from the year before, right? So there was that. And I think the players and the coaches as well got a bit of a wake-up. Well, hang on, your trial form's good, but it's not that good. Yeah. These guys are the heavyweights. And I remember playing them, I think it was in the semi-final, we want to knock them out. And what they did to us, we did back to them, 6 months later. So you can make big strides over a season if you're prepared to work hard, and that team unity is and the belief is really important.
Inside Ball Podcast, Kevy Walters and Dobbo. And, mate, who knew that he got knocked out by Peter Ryan in a car park at the Paddo?
Someone had to tell me because I was obviously knocked out.
Mate, if he's on the Bus of Hope on Saturday as well, we'll get live Instagram updates as well. Kevy, great to be with you. We're back Monday.
Two shows next week.
And also, please go and subscribe on YouTube. I mean that. They're very easy. Just go and subscribe.
Yep.
There'll be some footage of me with T-Pain at the nightclub. I've got a little bit of footage that'll be making its way out onto Instagram as well, and some photos from Vegas. Also, as you said, we'll be recapping the week and next week previewing. Have a great week. I hope everybody involved is safe because this cyclone will hit in the next couple of days. We really hope that all our Queenslanders are safe. And if it's flooded, forget it. Just please be safe. We can understand. We'll see you next time.